Welcome back to the Public Relations Podcast and another PR Bites. It is the 22nd of October 2024, and over the weekend I was watching live coverage of a massive gaming event, and what caught my eye wasn't just the content itself. I mean, as I think you know, I'm a casual gamer, but more I'm fascinated by the industry, which, as I've described before, is a bit like the new Hollywood in terms of the revenue and the engagement and the marketing. There is so much effort going into gaming these days because the margins, the profit margins, can be great when you have a hit. But the way that Star Citizen, the game at the center of this conference that happened over the weekend, has managed to continuously raise millions of dollars, $700 million so far, from individual members of the public, backers, without ever even releasing a game is pretty incredible, or at least a finished game. And you can't help but wonder when you see something like this, how they do it. Because it's got to be about the relationship between the brand and the public. No straightforward marketing or advertising could achieve this. So to me, it's a really good example of PR-led, narrative-driven comms in action. So I ended up watching it. I was really gripped by how they were doing it and what they were delivering. And what I thought I would do in this particular recording today is just do another one of these reverse engineering of something I've seen, because I know that they can be quite popular. I remember I did one about Balenciaga not long ago. I think it actually might have been last year, and people found that really valuable. So here is my sort of perspective, reverse engineering what I think was done over the weekend, because it's fascinating, but by teasing what is coming, they've achieved an absolutely amazing result. So while this might not sound like computer gaming may sound like something completely different to what you're doing, whether you're running a 1 week or 2 week campaign or 2 month campaign or whatever, it might sound completely different. Even if you're not into games, I think the techniques used here actually apply to any business, whether it is retail, fashion, fitness, tech, whatever it is. So let me give you a little bit of background to this particular event. Okay, now CitizenCon, as it's called, CitizenCon, so Star Citizen Conference. It's a multi-day event that took place this year in Manchester in the United Kingdom. And there was something like, I think, 4,000 odd people from around the world who'd flown in at their own expense. They gathered to watch updates on stage from the development team behind this game. And what's fascinating here is how the game has inspired all these people to come all the way to see things based on promises rather than delivery. So I should emphasize the game is out there. You can play it, but it is really buggy and it's broken. And with every update they do, it breaks even more. So what is being sold here to these people, what is exciting these people, is the potential, not the actual result. And when you think about how often companies are really worried about getting anything wrong, and when they do, they're massively criticized and it has a massive effect. Here's a product that's been released that is broken and people are throwing money at it. So as I say, this is fascinating. So let's break down a little bit about what I think are the sort of 3 core things that I got from watching this. Number one is it's about teasing the story. And they've been doing this for 10 years. They've been giving little updates and going on all the time. So they're creating the vision of what is possible, of what is the potential, of what could be the end result. And by teasing that, they're allowing people to create in their own imaginations the end result that they want to see. They're not giving it all away. Frankly, they probably couldn't because it's all so technical. But by teasing the excitement, they're able to get people on board with the story of the narrative of they're building. And as I say, importantly, people being able to create that image in their own mind of what the end result will be so that it will resonate with lots of different people. I remember many years ago, someone told me that it is far more important to promise something than it is to deliver it. Now, while that may sound completely cynical and perhaps is a bit, the bottom line is that we all love a story. We are hardwired to love a story. We like a narrative more than a punchline. You know, if you think about a joke, we don't want to hear what the punchline is in a joke. We want to enjoy the journey. As humans, we are programmed to enjoy a journey. And this is exactly the approach that Star Citizen is doing by giving these constant teasers. They're doing a video almost every week. They're talking about gameplay mechanics. They're going into quite technical details about how they're doing these things, but they're never giving the full picture. I think part of the reason is because the developers themselves don't know what the full picture is. But that lack of that end thing, but the end thing just sounding exciting and amazing is enough to keep people on board. So as I say, it gives the audience the room to not just become emotionally invested, but the vagueness allows them to imagine the end result that they want to hear. And I think this can apply to any business or any kind of thing that you're trying to put across. So how would you apply this, right? If let's say you handle PR for a small business, let's say like a fitness center, right? You don't simply announce we're open, which is kind of the sort of traditional approach. Instead, you tease the opening by releasing snippets. For example, a new workout technique, a glimpse of a trainer, or a success story that shows real results, and it builds up to it. And this creates that anticipation and excitement over time. In fact, let me try and break that down a bit more and think that through a bit more in a moment. And then we can apply all three of the techniques from what I saw in Star Citizen. The second thing that I saw in Star Citizen was that they created this sort of visual and auditory experience. Now, by the nature of a computer game, you've got these rich visuals, you've got these auditory experiences that pull people in. You can show someone this amazing, stunning computer-generated landscape, and you can describe how the sound design changes depending on the distance from the explosion or the way the gun looks and stuff like that. But the key takeaway is that people respond better emotionally to sensory experiences than they do to facts or slogans. So this is much more common. This is what everyone's trying to do, but it's about capturing the sensory experience of what you are doing, not by telling people what to see or hear or sense, but to actually make them feel that way. So that was number 2. They did a lot of this stuff. They showed a lot of visual treats, a lot of, sounds and excitement and stuff like that. And number 3, and I think this is perhaps actually probably the second priority here, is the community building and the social validation. That particular event in Manchester on a freezing cold October day with pouring rain drew 5,000 people from around the globe just to go and see it, which obviously fosters a sense of belonging. That was like creating 5,000 word-of-mouth marketers in that room who'd paid to be there on their own expense, who are going to go back and share that with anyone that will listen to them. But not just that, you're creating a shared experience. I mean, so much of PR marketing, I think at times you can look at in terms of, it's almost like a religion. Apple made a product into a religion. And that's not criticizing religion. That's just saying into that sort of what it touches within the human being, human soul. And by getting those people in that room and having that shared experience and talking about things they're passionate about, you're actually reinforcing these evangelists to go out there and share the word more, because they gain a sense that they're not alone. They gain a sense that there's loads of people talking about this, and that reinforces it. People want to be part of something exclusive and exciting. And when they are, they want to boast about that to their friends or tell their friends about it, about how they are in that. I mean, the figure alone, while I think you didn't hear them mention in the conference how much money they've earned, but 700 million is like double that of, I think, the budget of the next biggest game that was released in recent years. And they haven't even finished this one. So even that figure helps to create that sense of social validation. So let's try and apply these 3 points then to an actual example. And let's go for this fitness center, okay? Traditionally, you might put out, say, a press release or a social media post that reads something like, John Smith's Fitness Center is now open, special deals this month. But the problem with that approach, as I say, is that it dumps all the information at once, leaving no room for curiosity or engagement, and there's no sensory experience or excitement as well. So instead, from a PR commerce point of view, from a narrative-driven, PR-led campaign, you would focus on the teaser approach, if we're taking the Star Citizen approach, so that you're building up this excitement over time. So, for example, you would start off, say, step 1 would be about crafting a narrative around transformation. People don't just join a gym or exercise, they join for the promise of transformation, whether it's losing weight, building strength, improving mental health, or whatever that is. So we need to craft a series of teasers around a story that builds that desire for transformation. So we don't just say, you will lose weight. We don't say, you will build strength, you will improve your mental health. What you do is you create a sense of a tease towards that. So in other words, your first post might be, a new way to lose 10 pounds in 4 weeks. What's the secret? Stay tuned next week. So that gets a bit of a sense of expectation about something that's coming up. Then maybe you share a video of a trainer performing just one small part of a unique workout, which looks a bit different to how it would normally be done, but you don't explain it fully. You don't explain the rest. Then maybe the next one would be you introduce a case study of a success story, but you hop back on the details about how they achieved it. So they just talk about the impact on their lives, and they allude to this particular technique, but they don't actually explain it in any detail. One of the important things you're obviously doing here is that you're trying to focus on the emotional response that people are having to fitness. So it's not about working out, it's about imagining how it would feel to jog along the beach, or how it would feel to eat that chocolate cake guilt-free. So we're not talking about the actual specifics itself. So then you get near to the launch, and then you've got an opportunity. Now, by the nature of a fitness center, you're always going to have a fairly geographic area, okay? You can't reach a whole city. But you can start to create the fear of missing out. You can start to create the social validation. And you can do that by simply saying that someone does a social media update and say, I know they haven't announced the place publicly yet, or they haven't actually opened officially, but I was allowed to go along and take part in this new program. And I was happy to drive an hour to it because this is transformative. I can't say yet where it is, or I can't reveal the name of it yet. I'm not allowed to, but this was transformative. So any kind of updates like that, or how people are talking about this thing that they're not allowed to reveal yet, would be a great way of creating this fear of missing out. So I think the main point here is that we're talking about revealing bits in stages, not all at once, like Star Citizen. One question I'm sure people will be going with this is, okay, this sort of sounds like a lot of effort. How do you do this on a tight budget or a tight timeline? Well, I think the beauty of this approach is it doesn't need to cost any more. You're going to be doing, if you're doing some kind of PR or comms campaign for any kind of launch or campaign or any update or a product or stuff like that, you're going to be doing social media content anyway. So this is not about adding work. It's not, but instead of putting out some blatant plug, which everyone ignores, it's about, instead of doing that social media update, it's about doing a teaser instead. So it's not about creating more time. And then in terms of the budget, I mean, you could ask me about all kinds of different industry areas, but say with the fitness center is going to give an instructor for free. You can use their facilities for free. You can use their equipment. I mean, it's all recorded on a mobile phone for any kind of social media. It's easy enough to do. So it's not a question of more time or timeline. It's just a question of changing the emphasis of the content that you're putting out. So I think to sum up, I think the main thing is that there's just this one thing, and that is that the promise of the potential is actually more important than the delivery when it comes to building that long-term engagement. It is that story that is gradually increasing bit by bit, but with enough vagueness that people can fill in those bits themselves of what they can get excited about. And by doing that, you're creating a much stronger emotional connection and a much stronger story that is going to engage people more. And I think this strategy works, whatever you're selling or whatever idea you're trying to put across. So that's my breakdown of Star Citizen, the conference that happened over the past couple of days. As I say, this isn't just a one business, one industry kind of thing. This can apply to absolutely anything. And I think whatever size of operation you're doing, whether you're doing this at in-house comms or whether you're doing this as a small independent agency, you can see that by using this teaser approach, you can engage people more and get them more engaged in the story and make them into your supporters and make them see a vision of what they would like to see before there's any opportunity as well for those ideas to be actually tested and criticized as well. I think it's interesting to break down these kinds of case studies, and I will look for more as well to do on PR Bites. But I'd be interested to know, by the way, if you have really managed to do this kind of thing, if you've really tried a teasing-based campaign and you've had a lot of success. I would love to get you on if you have done and to hear about your case study. What else is worth mentioning? Oh, just worth mentioning very quickly, Comms Question Time. So we recorded the third episode of that last week, which was the third pilot show for that. We had a former national news editor, former national website editor for a national newspaper in the UK. We had a specialist PR agency from Holland, and we had an integrated marketing agency, Toot Consult, from India as well. And they were answering questions from listeners. Actually, I'll share one interesting thing that happened. And that was that we were talking about, there was a question we had, I'm trying to remember the details. It was about a pet brand that launched a pet food, and it's healthy pet food. And we were chatting away in the show, as we do, as we try to tackle these questions and try and come up with an actual plan that the listener can actually apply. And I was really struggling to think, well, how can you differentiate yourself when there's multiple healthy pet food brands out there? And then the person who's this former national editor just came up with his answer, and she said, well, it's a scientific approach because the people who are launching it are a bunch of scientists. So they're not marketers, they're not business people, they're scientists. And when she explained why that worked, it was absolutely fascinating to think about because it was a really good angle that I hadn't spotted. Anyway, I think you're going to find that show really interesting when I finally get those details out. Right, I think that is about enough for now. Hopefully that is useful. I hope you like these breakdowns. If you do let me know. Hit me up on social media, LinkedIn, as always, Richard Midson, Midson, Midson. Let me know if you like this style of PR bite, in which case I will do more of them. Right, I've gone on much longer than I planned to. I just wanted to share all that stuff that I'd been observing over the weekend, and I am completely out of time, so I don't think I'm going to be able to get a Thursdays one done this week. So I hope you found that useful and interesting, and that made good enough content for this week. In which case, I will speak to you next Tuesday, so I hope you have a really good week. And in the meantime, of course, if you have any thoughts, ideas, or anything like that you want to share with me, just reach out to me on LinkedIn. Have a great week.